Hi, Harold Hansen here. You're probably wondering, what's a dog trainer doing making a candle video? If you've seen the other video that I've made, I call this Harold Hansen's Burn 'em and Turn 'em Candles. And the reason for that is that this candle is very, very unique in that it has 4 wicks. It has one on top, one on this end, one on this end, and one in the back. And what you do is you burn it for a while, you blow it out, and then you simply turn it over and it sets up, and then you light another one. And what you end up with are these candles that have these burn patterns like this or like this. I'm going to blow this one out here and talk to you a little bit about how I actually make these. I make these out of molds that are made out of sheet metal, and I actually had these metal molds cut for me at a sheet metal shop here in Eugene, Oregon. And what I end up doing is I end up with 3 sides, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, and what these sides are about 12 inches by 12 inches by 12 inches. They're triangles. They're equilateral triangles. And then this, by the time you actually fold these, and we'll talk about that in a sec, you end up with about a 10 by 10 inch candle, 10 by 10 by 10. So when you've got your pieces cut, your 3 pieces cut, what you do is you cut a tab on the end like this. In other words, you don't just let this end come out like this, which is the way it would be. You cut it at 90 degrees this way, 90 degrees this way, and 90 degrees this way. The reason for that is when you fold these, you're going to have to fold these to get these assembled and to stay together. You can't just cut 3 pieces and hope that they stay together. So what I do is I use these little screws and wing nuts and screws to hold them the thing together. And when you have the triangles cut and you have your tabs cut, what you end up doing is you need to fold these. You need to fold these to create these edges that are going to stick together like this. So what you do is you want to fold these, and the angle of this from here to here is about 120 degrees, like this. This would be 120 this way, 120 this way. So the reason for that is that, again, when you put these together, you end up with a nice seam here that is extended out and that you can actually bolt the thing together. Again, I use little wing nuts. The reason I use wing nuts is so that I can tie the wicks to the wing nuts once I get the wicks installed. We'll talk about that in a moment. I had some leakage problems when I first started doing these, and the way I solved that was I used some JB Weld. That's great stuff. And I tried soldering first and just had an awful time, simply because this is galvanized sheet metal, and it's pretty hard for me, at least at my skill level or non-level, to get a pretty good leak-proof seam this way. So what I ended up doing was just got some JB Weld, and I just put it on each of these 3 seams, here, here, and here, and that's pretty much done the trick for me. So that's a plug for JB Weld. You want to drill a little tiny hole right at this point, because that's where one of your wicks is going to be sticking out of, and make it fairly small, just a little bit thicker than the wick that you're using. And when you're doing that, what you're going to do to assemble the wicks, let's drop back and talk about the wicks themselves. These are obviously not wicks. These are just pieces of blue nylon line, but you can see these. And I'll show you what you do. I get 2 18-inch lengths, and then I mark right in the center of each of the 2 lengths, and then I fold it in half, and I just do an overhand knot like this and pull it through, kind of even it out. And now I have what looks like an X. sort of an X on its side like this. This is going to be the wick that I'm going to be installing in this candle. Now, when you're putting the wick in, the trick is how do you get the push a piece of string through a hole. And the way I do that is they sell this very, very thin wire that they use for wrapping floral arrangements. And the pieces, I don't know, they're maybe about a foot long or so, something like that. And what I do is it's very thin wire, and I fold it in half. And then what I do is I push it through the hole that I drilled at the end. And then what I do is I simply take my end wick, the wick that's going to be going in there, and I simply fold it like this, and then I slip it inside that little folded up wire assembly, and then I simply pull it through like that, so I end up getting my wick coming out. Now, I'm going to show you how I one of these with the wicks installed. One of the things that I like to do is when I put the wicks in, I like to take, I'll show you, put this one here since this is out. What I like to do is I like to take this and I mark from the center, I mark about a 5-inch black line here, and here, from here to here, and to here, and to here. So I have 5-inch markers. The reason for that is when I get the wick in and I'm trying to even it out so that it's sort of equidistant from all the sides and the ends, it helps if I have these little markers to kind of visualize that. So I have the end pulled through, and what I end up doing is I take the wing nut here and I simply wrap this top wick, which is actually going to be the bottom of the when it's being poured, but we'll call it the top right now, and I wrap this around here, and that kind of snugs it up pretty well. Then what I do is I go to these wicks and I drape them over these 3 sides here at the top, and I can secure them again with the wing nuts. So now my candle mold is ready to pour. And when you're pouring your wax, by the way, one very, very important thing that I want to emphasize is I call these the burn and turn candles. You don't light all the wicks at the same size. What I do is I light the top wick and let it burn for a while, and then I turn it around and I light this wick and I burn it for a while, and then I turn it around and I light this wick and I burn it for a while, and then you can do one on the back too. I'm going to show you a little something on this back. You'll see that this has several different colors of purple. There's a purple mood here. And I'll explain that as I go along, and we're talking about actual pouring. So we now have the wick, the candle wick, wicks installed, and we're ready to pour. Now, when you're pouring wax, the safe and smart way to do it is to use a double boiler. The reason you want to use a double boiler is that you don't catch the things on fire. You don't catch the wax on fire. There are 2 waxes that I know of that one is melts at 140 and the other one melts at 160 degrees. I usually use, on this candle, I use a 160. It's a little bit stiffer, and you get a little bit better points on the side here. This candle I've used quite a bit, so it's kind of looking like it's been used quite a bit. So we have the wicks installed, we're ready to pour. Now you're probably wondering, how do you hold this thing up without it tipping over? And the answer to that is, what I do is I get a pot like this. This is a couple of pots, and I put the mold right on top like this. Now, if you want to, what you can do is pour some wax down on the bottom. You just have some extra wax, doesn't matter what color it is. Just pour some wax down on the bottom of this, because when you stick this in, if there's going to be any leakage, you're probably pretty good, but if there's going to be any leakage, it's going to be out the bottom. So if you have wax on the bottom, and this is sitting on wax on the bottom, it's going to be able to stop the leak the leakage from the bottom and help the candle not just sort of, when you pour it, just sort of comes out the bottom. When I pour my wax, you can do this in a couple of different ways. You see this one, this candle has two different colors of purple here, like this. There's two. And the way I did that, and you can probably make it more colorful by simply melting some wax, pouring it in metal ice cube trays, and just make some cubes. You can make different color ones. And what that would do would be produce different colors both on the sides, and of course as you light it and it's burning down, then it would reveal different colors as the wax melts and appears. So we're pouring now, we're pouring. You can do this again, putting the cubes in if you want to, or simply pouring and pouring and pouring. If you want to make a 2 or 3 different levels, what you can do is pour, say, some red wax in, and then pour some white wax in, or some purple wax, or some green wax. And when one layer solidifies, simply pour another layer on top, and you're going to end up with some stripes, a striped effect. Once the candle is poured, you're going to find that there's a little bit of a recess on the top, because when the wax finally dries, it's going to shrink a little bit. And so what I end up doing is I take and I melt some more wax, and then I heat the top with just a very little bit of heat, and I heat the top with a propane torch just to get the surface broken and liquid, so that when I pour the new wax on, it's going to adhere to it and not just have like this one layer that's poured and then this one is poured on top and they don't solidify. So we've got the candle all poured, it's all fairly even, and then what we're going to do is figure out how do you get the thing out. How you get the thing out is you simply undo these wicks here, untie these, and then turn the candle upside down like this and loosen this wick up here. And what you can do is simply lightly heat the sides of the mold like this, and then as the wax starts melting a little bit on the sides, you're going to simply be able to use a pair of pliers and pick the candle up, or pick the mold up, and the candle will remain on the base. Once I've got the candle poured, then what I do to finish the candle is I use an iron at a very low setting. So I'll take an iron and I'll just touch up the sides a little bit, like that. Touch up this side, touch up this side. As you see, this candle has been used quite a bit, and again, it shows the idea. You burn this side, blow it out, let it cool off, turn it around, burn this side for a little bit. So that's why I call them burn them and turn them candles. Be sure to only light one wick, the top one at a time. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video, and you now know how I make my Harold Hansen's burn them and turn them in candles. I don't make these commercially. I just make them an occasional one, maybe for a Christmas present for a friend or a relative. So if you want to make them, they're a little bit of trouble to put them all together and put the wicks in and get things squared away, but you're welcome to give it a shot. Thanks for watching. I'm Harold Hansen.